Hello there, this is Senris. This video will be the start of an Anarchist Stardew Valley Let's Play series. I went over how Stardew Valley is set in an anarchist commune and the rules of this series in a previous video, which I'll link in the description, so let's jump right into it. I start off by creating my character. I name my farmer, decide to call the farm the People's Farm to reflect my love of the community and the communal nature of the farm, and enter my favorite thing. Violent class warfare doesn't fit, so I'll just put communism instead. I go through all the hairstyles to find one that most resembles me, and go through the clothes and accessories to find a good look for an anarchist farmer. Naturally, I decide to wear a black shirt with a skull on it and some cool sunglasses. The intro cutscene plays, showing my grandpa shortly before he passes away. He gifts me with a sealed envelope but says not to open it until one day in the future when capitalism has fully alienated me from my labor and drained me of my will to live. I managed to hold down an office job at Joja Corporation, an evil megacorp that wants to own everything, for about 12 years before I can't take it anymore. I open Grandpa's letter and see that he has given me his old farm in his will, or rather he gave me an invitation to join the community of Pelican Town, because inheritance of private property is one of the least anarchist things I can think of. I steal some office supplies, tell my manager to go fuck himself, and catch the next bus to Stardew Valley. When I arrive, I'm met by Robin, the local carpenter. She explains that Lewis, the mayor of the town, is getting my new home ready and that she can show me the way there. We arrive at the People's Farm, which is only a stone's throw away from the bus stop. My first impression of the farm is, holy shit, this looks more like the forest moon of Endor than a workable farm, but Robin assures me that there is good soil underneath all this overgrowth. It'll take some work to get a farm going here, but it can't be worse than working for Joja. Robin shows me my home, a quaint cabin that is easily 3 times the size of the $3,000 a month studio apartment I lived in before. Mayor Lewis exits the house and introduces himself. He says they don't get many people moving to the valley and that the town is looking forward to meeting a newcomer. Before he leaves, Lewis tells me I can put anything I want to sell in the shipping bin and he will come by at night to pick it up. He wishes me luck and then departs with Robin. I am exhausted from the long trip, so I decide to get some rest and go meet the townspeople tomorrow. I'm awoken promptly at 6 a.m. by a crowing rooster. I'm startled by a mysterious present on the floor, so I swing at it with my axe, missing the inanimate object by 5 feet. Deciding that opening it with my hands might be more effective, I carefully pry it apart, revealing 15 parsnip seeds. The mayor was kind enough to leave them for me as a gift, although I wish he wouldn't sneak into my house while I'm sleeping. I begin clearing the brush and the boulders that have accumulated over the years, and then till some soil to plant my parsnip seeds. The ground is very dry, so I make sure to water the parsnips well to ensure that they will germinate properly. I do a little bit more work clearing the farm before heading into the town to meet my new neighbors. My first stop is the general store. I meet Gus, who runs the local saloon, and Pierre, who runs the store. They both seem friendly enough. I buy some seeds to ensure I have a large first harvest and head out, introducing myself to Marnie, the local rancher, on my way out. I return to the farm to plant my new seeds. Looking at my watch, I realize it's already 12:30, and that is enough work for one day. I return to the town to explore and meet some more locals, meeting Harvey, the town doctor, Abigail, the girl next door, Caroline and Jody, the local MILFs, and Vincent, a child that is bizarrely excited to meet a total stranger. Seeing another friendly face, I say hello to Evelyn, who is just the kindest old lady I have ever met. I decide to take the scenic route home and collect some forageables. They might come in handy later. In the forest south of the farm, I meet Haley, who is taking pictures of nature. She seems friendly, but a few semesters in art school taught me that photographers are some of the most insufferable people in the art world, so I don't think we will become friends. Later, while heading to check out the beach, I meet Elliot, an unnervingly attractive man. I'll keep my eye on him. I spend some time digging for buried treasure on the beach, but have no luck. Returning to town, I meet Maru, the town nerd, and Penny, a wholesome girl from the Midwest. Feeling parched from walking around town for several hours, I head to the saloon to have a few brews. I meet a guy named Shane who seems like a total asshole, and Pam, who would later become my best drinking buddy. I decide to walk behind the counter of the bar because that seems like something that would be okay in an anarchist society, and meet Emily, the barback. She has blue hair, works at a bar, and is really into crystals and making her own clothes, so there's a good chance that I will let this woman ruin my life in the near future. Remembering I spent all my labor vouchers on seeds that morning, I realize I can't afford anything to drink, so I head home to get some rest. The next morning, I check my mail and see that Willie, the local fisherman, has invited me to the beach and that he has something for me. I take care of the morning chores and then head up to the beach to take him up on his offer. I meet Willie, who has just gotten back from a month-long fishing trip. They had a good haul, and so he made enough labor vouchers to buy a fancy new fishing rod, and he is nice enough to give me his old one. He says he will buy anything I catch, which will be helpful while I'm waiting for my crops to grow. I spend the next few hours fishing, selling what I catch to him, and using the money to buy some potato seeds. I fucking love potatoes. Later, while on a walk, I meet Demetrius and Sebastian. Demetrius is Maru's father and the biggest nerd in town. He's even nerdier than me, and I have like $1,000 of Warhammer 40k figures. Sebastian is the local cool guy, although his hair is stuck in 2006. I do a little more foraging before heading home to sleep, which pays off as my foraging and fishing skills both level up overnight. On day 3, I wake up to downpouring rain. Since I don't need to worry about watering the crops today and fish love rain, I decide to spend the day fishing. I managed to make a few $100 and head to Pierre's, but learn they are closed on Wednesdays. So much for labor being life's prime want. I see some people hanging out in town, so I introduce myself to Alex, the town jock, and Leah, a beautiful bow-legged redhead that I would also let ruin my life. I do some foraging in the woods, but don't find much. Returning to the farm from the south entrance, I realize taming this farm is going to be an even bigger undertaking than I expected. I spend the rest of the night clearing a path from the house to the southern entrance, so I don't have to climb over trees and through tall grass every time I leave. The last thing I want to do is be surprised by hungry velociraptors.
Don't go into the long grass!
Overnight, my fishing skill levels up again. On day 4, I wake up to see that my parsnips are coming in strong. I water my crops and go wait outside Pierre's to buy seeds I wasn't able to buy the day before. While waiting, that guy Shane walks by. I say what's up to him, but he is still being a total douchebag to me. He must have woken up on the wrong side of the bed. I swing my scythe at him in anger, but he just keeps walking. When Pierre opens up, I buy a bunch more parsnips and head home to put them in the ground. I spend a few more hours clearing the brush on the farm and turn in early at 2 in the afternoon. The next day, as I'm leaving my cabin, I'm met by Marnie, who found a stray cat on the edge of the farm. She asks if I would like to adopt the poor thing, and of course I say yes, because I love kitties. I wish I could have a farm with 20 cats, but one is a good start. I decide to name him Kropotkin after the famous anarchist writer and philosopher. I prefer the writings of Alexander Berkman, which you should check out if you want to learn more about anarcho-communism, but Kropotkin is a cuter name for a cat. Marnie asks little Kropotkin to be a good kitty, but he is an anarchist with no appreciation of rules, so he immediately disappears. I'm sure he'll turn up later, so I start harvesting my ripe parsnips. It's a good harvest and should sell for many labor vouchers. Before heading out, I check the mail and find a letter from Joja Corp. Assuming it's my final paycheck from them, I open it up only to find a weird corporate apology to the townspeople for causing a landslide by fracking the nearby mountain. At least I can access the mountain now. There are bound to be treasures inside. I head into town to buy more seeds when I see Lewis hanging out by a dilapidated building. I approach him to see what he's up to, and he informs me that the building used to be a community center. It was a communal place where the whole community could hang out. Lewis is a bit of a boomer in describing the place, but it does sound like a place that is worth restoring. He says Joja Corp wants to buy the land and put a warehouse there. Even though I'm new to the community, the idea of turning the community center into just another way for Joja to extract profit from the town is revolting. Lewis shows me the inside, which looks even worse than the outside. There's a small hut in the corner, which Lewis assumes was built by the local children. Just then, I see a small green man waving at me. Lewis looks at me like I'm crazy, which I am, but I took my medicine this morning and I'm sure I saw something. As he is looking at me, I see another one behind him, waving again. Lewis says I am worrying him, but that it's not his problem, and leaves to go eat lunch. That was a strange experience, but daylight is burning, and so I head to Pierre's to buy more seeds. This is where I make my first big mistake with regards to finances. For some reason, I thought the Egg Festival was on the 10th of spring instead of the 13th, and so I only spent some of my money on seeds to have plenty left over to buy strawberries. For those of you that have never played Stardew Valley, strawberries are only available to buy at the festival, and they are by far the most profitable crop you have access to this early in the game. So the meta thing to do is to make as much money as possible and have all your crops harvested by the 12th so that you could fill as much space as possible on the farm with strawberries for the rest of the season. As I mentioned in the intro video to the series, this playthrough will be more focused on earning friendship with the townspeople and growing things I like than making as much money as possible. So even though strawberries are one of my favorite foods, it's not that big of a deal. When I get back to the farm, I seem to realize that I should have bought more and go back for more, but I should have spent all the money on crops, preferably potatoes. In any case, I plant all my seeds and decide to spend the rest of the day checking out the mountain now that the way is clear. When I arrive, a man that looks like Old Snake is looking down a ladder to a lower level. He He informs me that the mines have been abandoned for decades, but that there is probably some good ore down there. He warns me there are probably monsters down there as well, but seeing the determined look in my eyes, he knows he won't be able to deter me, so he gives me an old sword instead. He introduces himself as Marlin and says he runs the Adventurers Guild and that he'll make me a member if I prove myself. As a strong supporter of guilds, unions, and all flavors of organized labor, I'm eager to join, so I storm into the mines. Unfortunately, I didn't realize how exhausted I was from farming earlier that morning, so I don't get very far. I managed to farm 1 copper ore rock and kill my first slime, but then I'm forced to retreat. On my way back to the farm, I meet Linus, a man who lives on the edge of town. His beard reminds me of Karl Marx, so I instantly trust him and decide to give him the leek I found earlier, which he is very thankful for. I head back to the farm to get some rest and see that Kropotkin has returned. I give him some pets and turn in for the night. Overnight, my farming skill levels up, which will allow me to make scarecrows and basic fertilizer. When I wake up on day 6, I am met by Clint, the town blacksmith. He gives me Redditor vibes for some reason, but he gives me some useful information about smelting ores as well as a blueprint to make my own furnace. That seems like something that will come in handy later, so I thank him. After he leaves, I gather up everything I need to make my first scarecrow. In the early game, losing even a single crop to crows can be devastating, so I want one down as soon as possible. While watering my plants, I come to regret not buying potatoes even more. This field of 80 parsnips takes most of my energy to water, leaving me with little left over to fish, dig in the mines, or clear more of the farm. A potato field would require less watering and be more profitable, but oh well. I decide to use what energy I have left to go back to the mines and try to get further than I did yesterday. On the way, I stop in the community center again. I don't see any of the little green men, just a strange tablet on the ground written in a language I have never seen before. I shrug and continue on to the mines. I eat my leeks for an energy boost and give a flower to my new friend Linus. The world could use more men giving flowers to their boys just to show them that they care. In the mines, I have more luck than I did the day before, fighting many slimes and gathering much more copper. The slimes do a number on me, taking me quite close to death, but I manage to barely survive and make it to the 5th floor. This unlocks an elevator to that floor so I can quickly get back there and continue my descent next time. I exit the mines and see Abigail playing a flute by the lake. Enthralled by her beauty and the skill with which she played her instrument, I decided to give her an equally beautiful gem I found in the mines. I hold it out for her to take, telling her it reminded me of her. I stand there with my hand outstretched for like 10 seconds straight and she didn't even notice me.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't.
Feeling embarrassed and being reminded of Clint for some reason, I fled to the farm, hoping no one had noticed my shameful display of yearning for a love that went unrequited. At least Kropotkin was there to cheer me up. When I took stock of my inventory, I realized I had enough coal and copper to make my first copper bar. I set that up and let it smelt overnight right next to my house, which is made of very old wood because I have no regard for fire safety regulations or any regulations for that matter. The game rewarded my flouting of bourgeois rules by leveling up my mining skill. On day 7, I awoke to find a letter from someone called Rasmodius who claimed to be a wizard. He somehow knew that I had visited the community center and invited me to his wizard tower because he had information regarding the rat problem. Given the quotations about rat problem, I think he may be referring to the little green men. I ponder whether it's more likely that Lewis and this Rasmodius are playing some kind of prank on the new guy or if there really are little green men and magical wizards running around this place. I don't have time to decide because I realize a crow is munching on my newly planted crops, ignoring my new scarecrow. I would fire him for gross negligence, but like most people in Pelican Town, he just kind of works whenever he feels like it, and more importantly, me being in charge of the scarecrow just because I created him would be a form of unjustifiable hierarchy, so I'll just hope he does a better job next time. I returned to my unread mail consisting of an advertisement from Robin, because I guess those would still exist in a post-scarcity, post-capitalist world in some capacity, and a letter from Marlin saying he will allow me to join the guild if I kill 10 more slimes. This day could go a number of ways, but first things first. I water my many parsnips, pet the kitty, and chop down some trees to get some materials for some field snacks, which is one of the only foods I have access to besides just eating leeks I find. Unfortunately, the energy it takes to chop down trees is greater than the energy I'm getting from the snacks, so I'm left pretty exhausted. I take my gathered wood and stone to Robin's shop, hoping I can afford a chicken coop, but she is charging an obscene amount of labor vouchers. It will be a while before I can afford one of those, so instead I decide to do some foraging, talk to some of the villagers, and give away some gifts. I'm still a stranger to most of the town, so it would be nice to make some friends. While foraging in the forest, I encounter a wandering merchant. She has some valuable goods, but I need to be frugal until I get my hands on some strawberries, so I pass. Since I found myself near the Wizard Tower, I decide to visit. When I approach, however, I see Abigail. Too ashamed from my awkward advances, I steer clear of there and hope she doesn't see me. I manage to find a good bunch of spring onions at the south end of the forest. These should make good gifts, and I can sell the silver and gold quality ones for a little extra change. Exhausted from my busy day, I return home to crash. I level up my foraging skill overnight, and my spring onions sell for 69 labor vouchers. Nice. So that rounds out my first week in the Anarchist playthrough of Stardew Valley. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for part 2 of the series. Will I win the Egg Festival egg hunt? Will I manage to make it past level 5 of the mines? Will I manage to find love? Find out
Next time on Dragon Ball Z.